Good morning, everyone, and welcome aboard as we begin our next Sefer in the Halacha series of our daily Torah WhatsApp from Makor HaChaim. And we're beginning a Sefer called Pischei Halacha, Kitzer Hilchos KASHRUS. These are the concise laws of KASHRUS, of Kashrut, of how to keep kosher for yourself, how to keep a kosher home, and how to live kosher wherever it is that you will be going in the world. It's written by one of the current Paiskim, great halachic authorities of our times, especially here in America, by the name of Rabbi Binyomin Forst. He has written many svarim, many works on halacha that have won him fame across the Torah world, in the laws of kashrus, in the laws of nida, in the laws of in even just kashering the vessels and keeping a kitchen running in the right way. He is a well-renowned Rav in New York, in the Five Towns, in Far Rockaway. It's a very amazing thing. B'li Ayin Har, the man is in his 80s already, and he is just now finishing the final touches on a beautiful new shul building, which he is the Rav of, which means B'li Ayin Har is a man with koiches, with tremendous strength and energy and enthusiasm. Hashem should give him a long life. I may have asked him shana to 120 years. He has a koilo there as well, where they're learning high levels of halacha, so that he's training the next generation to be able to answer the questions that arise in the world of halacha today. And without any further ado, we're going to begin in his Hagdama, his introduction to his book, to the Sefer over here on KASHRUS, because the Hagdama, his introduction, is a fascinating insight into halacha, and also a fascinating insight into the laws of kashrut, of kashrus, which is what we're going to be learning. And he says like this: Kiyom ha-mitzvos eino teluya b'havanas taimam. Performing the mitzvahs, keeping the mitzvahs, is not something that depends upon how much you understand the reasoning behind them. Ki dai lanu b'ma shetziva HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Torasai shenekayim mitzvosav. The fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us in His Torah to keep this mitzvah, that's really enough. The Master of the universe has come and spoken to us, given us His Torah and said, keep this or don't do that. That's really good enough for a God-fearing, believing Jew. Lefikach beinim novin es ta'amei, and therefore whether you understand the reason why, or beinim loy novinam, or you don't understand the reason why we do this mitzvah, aleinu lekaiman mitzvah shava, we have to keep every mitzvah equally. The mitzvahs you understand better, and even the ones you don't understand, what's the real reason behind it? We're obligated to keep the mitzvahs that HaKadosh Baruch has commanded us to keep in His Torah. Im kol zeh, nevertheless, our sages have given over to us perushim ubeurim b'taimei roid mitzvos HaTorah. The great sages of previous generations have given over us many explanations and understandings of the reasons behind the majority of the mitzvahs that we have in the Torah. The truth is, says Rav Forst, we can't decide which one of the reasons is the main reason or the foundational reason. Because who could really understand the true depth of the way in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu thinks, and His true intention of why He gave us this mitzvah and that mitzvah? And there are so many mystical secrets and deep ideas that are enmeshed in every single mitzvah. It's really impossible for a human being made out of flesh and blood with a finite brain to be able to understand the ultimate, infinite, eternal depth of the mitzvah. However, al-kain ein nafkamina v'chashivus la'alacha mikol hatamim. Whatever the reason is why Hashem gave particular mitzvahs doesn't change in halacha the way that we're going to keep it. Ve'en levase says halacha al-piyam, and we don't even decide the halacha based upon the more esoteric reason behind the mitzvah. Im kol zeh roi lanu la'ayim behem kefi yechaltenu. Nevertheless, says Rav Forst, we have an obligation to examine the meaning of the mitzvah the best that we possibly can. Like the Rambam himself writes, Roy la'adam lihisbainin, it is fitting for a person to delve into b'mishpatei Torah, the laws of the Torah HaKadosh, the Holy Torah, v'leida, and to know sof inyonim kefi kaicha, to understand to the greatest abilities and the depths that you have to understand what that mitzvah really is all about. So Rav Forst begins his sefer to help us to understand that in order to really appreciate what the halacha is, to appreciate the mitzvah that HaKadosh Baruch has given us in the Torah, a person has an obligation upon themselves to investigate the Tamei HaMitzvahs, to investigate the meaning and the purpose and the intent that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had behind the mitzvah, again, to the best of one's mental capacity and capabilities, whether we can come to it on our own or we'll use the words of our beautiful Rishonim and Achreinim, the earlier commentaries, or even going back to the Amoraim and the Tanoim in the times of the Gemara and the Mishnah, to be able to understand why HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us His mitzvah and what we should be thinking about while we are performing it. We find this in the Sefer called the Sefer HaChinuch, where it was a father writing to his son for his bar mitzvah. He went through all of the mitzvahs, and one of the things that he's very particular about doing in there is, for every single mitzvah, he gives a tangible, down-to-earth, practical reason why it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave this, so that we should have an attachment to the mitzvahs. So hopefully, Be'ez Hashem, as we go through the Hagdam and the introduction over here, we'll have a greater understanding and appreciation and awareness of why the laws of KASHRUS are the way that they are, why it is so important in the life of a Jew, why it's one of the central mitzvahs that we identify ourselves with as a Torah Jew. If you're not keeping kosher, it's hard to say that you're a Torah Jew, because this is such an inherent, intrinsic part of what our Yiddishkeit is really all about. So, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we're going to begin. This is the Hagdam, the introduction to the Kitzur Hilchos Kashrus, the concise laws of Kashrus by Rabbi Binyomin Forst, Shlita, and we shall continue Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.